Still Broke Podcast, your host, Marcus Moore, MM, Encyclopedia Black. We still broke on this podcast, so don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button down below. We don't want to be broke forever, but we still broke right now. We got to talk some Caleb Williams here, and basically, with Cliff Kingsbury going to the Washington Commanders, you know what, there's a lot of speculation on him maybe going there, or the Bears taking a pick, and just a lot of things going on as far as what do the Washington Commanders offer Chicago, and if Chicago's going to move off that pick. But let me start here. Let me start with the Colin Cowherd situation, with him kind of quote unquote backtracking what he said a couple of days ago about Caleb not wanting to be in Chicago. And then he coming out and saying, hey, look, Caleb's people talked to him and said they don't want to be viewed as anti-Chicago and they don't want to be viewed as a villain. Okay. So I don't believe that was actually backtracking. I just believe that was being honest with Colin and telling him, yo, we don't want to be viewed like that. We don't want to be viewed as a villain or anti-anything. Colin is on damage control right now. He's very good at what he does. He's very well sourced at USC and with Caleb Williams. But we make mistakes sometimes, and sometimes you say things that you're not supposed to, and sometimes you let out a little bit more information than what you were supposed to. So I do believe what Colin said is true. And I understand why. I really do. But I believe that they didn't want that out there. They didn't want the perception of them trying to basically pull an Eli Manning or John Elway. They just wanted to keep that on the low per se and not have anybody know how they really felt about that situation. Because again, they don't want to be viewed as anti-Chicago or a villain. They don't want to do that. Excuse me. So Colin came out. He said that. He said they contacted him, and that's what they wanted to say, and that's the way they felt. He also said that they felt like there was a place to win in Chicago, and that if Chicago selected him, they would go. They would go. So, and I think that's reluctantly. I don't think that's the place that they really want to go, but that's what they said. So you can call that backtracking. I do not. I just call it being honest. Again, I believe Colin just let out a little bit more information than he was supposed to. But when people say things, you just got to understand. I always say this. You can listen to what people say and form an opinion. Or you can hear what you want to hear and then form your opinion, which means you can form the narrative that you want to. So when I hear Caleb tell me, hey, I don't want to be a villain, or his camp, we're not anti-Chicago, and we don't want to be viewed as a villain, you're just saying, you never said, I want to be a Chicago Bear. You never said that. You know Chicago has the number one pick. We know you want to be the number one pick. This is easy. Just come out and say, I want to be a Bear. They have the pick. I'm looking forward to it. Or just handle it like this. Just say, listen, we understand that Chicago has a number one pick and we want to be the number one pick. We will be more than happy to be selected by Chicago or any other team that selects us at number one. Now, we understand that Chicago has a little bit different situation. They're not the typical team that has a number one pick. They were 7-10 this year. They have an excellent, talented quarterback that their team loves. So we're not exactly sure how this is going to work. But if they decide to take us at number one, we will be more than happy and honored to represent the city of Chicago and the Chicago Bears organization. You say that, we good. We good. But because you're a non-committal, which is fine, again, I understand it. That's why I don't believe that he was really backtracking. I believe that Caleb, if he had his choice, really doesn't want to go to Chicago, but he doesn't want to say that. Now, fast forward to the new information. Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury is now the offensive coordinator with Washington Commanders. Now, he is the OC of choice. Every quarterback that he has touched has turned to gold. When we talk about Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech, we talk about Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M. We talk about Kyler Murray with Arizona Cardinals. All those guys have been very, very successful under Cliff Kingsbury in the air raid system. Well, Caleb comes from another air raid guy, Lincoln Riley. Cliff was also an analyst, a.k.a. coach at USC, while Caleb was there for his last year. So they're very familiar with each other. They come from the same system. It'll be very easy for him to kind of pick that up, have familiar language, and just make the transition to the NFL really easy for him as far as the schematics or the offense. Well, let's be honest, guys. There's nothing wrong with Caleb wanting to go to Washington if he does. That's the dream, man. That's the dream if you're Caleb Williams. You're going to be the number one pick in the NFL draft. And you're going to be the number one pick by your hometown team. He went to Gonzaga High School, I believe it was outside the D.C. area. So he's from there. And you want to talk about having the community, having the city all around you, selling season tickets, bringing new energy with your new owner. You just got a new head coach. It makes too much sense for them to do that. And again, that's the dream. I got no issue with that with Caleb Williams. Man, who wouldn't want to get drafted number one by their hometown team, assuming they grew up being a fan of that team? And basically, if you bring a championship back to your city, you're the king of the city forever. So who wouldn't want to do that? So I get that and I understand that. So if Caleb wants to go to Washington or even another program or organization, I get it, because the Bears have had their own troubles and their own issues with developing quarterbacks. They really never have. The Bears have been around since 1920. It's 2024. They've never had a 4,000-yard passer, and they've never had a quarterback throw for 30 touchdowns. Never. Not one time since 1920. Never, ever, ever, ever. They traded for Jay Cutler, who was a 4,000-yard guy, before he got to Chicago. He was in Denver for 3 years. Chicago got him for 8. Never did it again. They also saw what Chicago did to Justin Fields. Now, Caleb's going to come into a lot better situation as far as personnel is concerned with Justin Fields. When we talk about Justin Fields, we talk about a guy who was ranked the number one player in high school. We're talking about a guy who went to Ohio State and lit it up. Matter of fact, he had a better completion percentage than Caleb. He also had a better quarterback rating than Caleb. He's bigger, faster, stronger than Caleb. The arm is just as big. So we're talking about a grade A prospect here. A guy that we're talking about, this guy probably not going to bust on the next level. Look what the Bears did to him. Now we're questioning if he can play. This is a guy at Ohio State that when we saw C.J. Stroud, one reason why we didn't know about C.J. Stroud is this. We saw C.J. Stroud play after Justin Fields, and we said, that don't look the same. That does not look as electric as Justin Fields. We didn't find out that he can even run CJ, by the way, into Georgia. And then we said, oh, okay, he's got a little something there. But almost every game looked like that for Justin. And look what the Bears did to him. So I understand the reservation if you're Caleb Williams, even as a Bears fan. Bears fan all my life. But I get it. I understand it. We're not going to be dumb about this. If I was Caleb, the only benefit to going to Chicago is saying if we can turn it around. Listen, they got a better roster right now. They're building. They got draft capital. And it looks like they're trending up. And it's also the city of Chicago. So if you are a star there, I can't even explain to you how big you would be in the city for the Bears. But that's probably the only plus to it. Otherwise, you got a coach that's possibly a lame duck. You got a new OC that you maybe worked with before the quarterback connection. I'm not exactly sure how that worked. But your guy is in Washington. Cliff is in Washington. That is your hometown team. That's your city. New energy, new coach. You being a new quarterback, it just makes too much sense. And again, don't blame them for that. Now, as far as Washington is concerned, what would they give up? I don't know. If we look at last year's deal that Chicago did from Carolina to move down from 1 to 9. So Carolina moved up from 9 to 1 to get the first pick. Now, typically when you jump that far, the cost is going to cost you a little bit more. But we're saying that Caleb's supposed to be generational. It's supposed to be the next Patrick Mahomes, right? So if we start with the trade package that Chicago got from Carolina, we're talking about the swap at 1 here in 2024, the 2 in 2024 as well, a first-round pick in 2025, then a second-round pick in 2026, along with a player. That's probably the minimum that it'll take. Now, Washington's only trying to move one spot, so now you don't typically have to give up as much, but it's going to cost you the first and the second, the swap here, the second this year, a first next year, and probably another 2 or 1 and a player because Caleb is seen as a higher prospect than Bryce Young. But whatever it takes or doesn't take, because again, we're not sure what Chicago wants to do. Maybe they just say, Caleb's that guy and we're not passing up. There's nothing you can do. Maybe they say that. Maybe they don't. But if you're Washington, you have to make an offer. You have to. You cannot look at your fan base and say, we didn't at least try. You have to show your fan base that you tried to win. You have to show your fan base that the generational talent, as they say, that's from our city, that is available, that is one spot away from us getting there, that we had to try, that we tried everything we could to get them, and they just said no. So you have to do that. That is a no-brainer for you. You have to put all your chips to the table. And so what? If you give up 2 first-round picks in 25, 26, who cares? If this is the guy that they say he is, if this is the next Mahomes, I don't know if he is. I think he's a good player. I think he's going to be very good. Listen, he cold. The dude's the truth. I get that. But how good, I don't know. You just have to offer up as much as you can to do it. And you have to show your fan base you did everything. So you can't lowball them. You cannot lowball Chicago. You have to put out a formidable offer that they said, listen, we tried and they didn't take it. Because if Caleb is generational, like they say, then there is no second place. There is no Drake May. There is no Jaden Daniels. Those guys do not matter because they're not close to this guy. This is the guy. If he's as good as they say, and he's generational, second and third place are far, far, far away. This is not a photo finish. You have to go up and get your guy. You have to do it. Now, again, I do not know what Chicago wants, and I do not know if Chicago's even open to selling that number one pick. I would be personally, because I feel a different way about Justin Fields than a lot of people do. But we don't know what Chicago thinks. But Washington, this is not a no-brainer for you. This is a no choice for you. So go ahead and make the offer. Show your fan base that you are serious about bringing the prodigy home and winning a Super Bowl. Catch you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Still broke. I'm out.